gentlemen, I am pleased as punch to bring you another episode of Frannie's Live from Johnson City. I have the great good fortune to introduce some of the fine talent we're going to have here tonight. We're going to have the incomparable Generalissimo himself, Bryan, Franco. We got Skyza. And that is a woman you can count on.
Skyza woman.
And as if that wasn't enough, we also have local talent, the talented and charming Sharon Daughtery, who is also going to read a little something. I'm going to start you off with a short little piece. I'm Rick Spisak, your host. This is, come on in, good people. Come on in, sit down anywhere.
Sure will.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So this first piece is a little piece that's fresh, right off the old computer screen. A friend of mine was musing on the new recent status of the judicial challenges that our friend President has faced. And she wrote a little limerick, and it was pretty funny, and I thought, you know, turnabout's fair play, so I wrote mine too. And this goes like this. Although the Trumpster dropped a stitch, he might as well blame the machinations on a witch. The special master, a too brief attempt to elude disaster, has been dismissed, leaving little more behind than cynical laughter and a drifting mist. The tax records, so long hid from view, have dropped before Congress, those half-hidden secrets now fully in view. Pretty soon, everyone will know just how threadbare Trumpy's finances show. Lady Godiva, in her birthday suit, hides more than all the bankrupt tax docs will the rapid shoot. How he welcomed the Nazi to his table, displaying his crass, corrupted self even more whenever he is able. The spineless repubs around still flock, and then slowly find enough courage to his mischief mock. As they slowly find enough courage to his mischief mock, just perhaps one last awful disaster till Trumpy succumbs to raucous laughter. And with that, I offer the stage to my dear friend Sharon Daughtery to bring us a couple light-hearted pieces. This fine young woman has been writing poetry for a wonderfully long time, and I have the good fortune to be her neighbor right down the street. So without any further ado, let's warmly welcome Sharon Daughtery.
He said he wanted me to start with the funny one. The title of this is Griddle. I once had a griddle, cast iron, of course. The only time it would cook was at the sight of a horse. Why so particular would it be? Was because the rider on the horse was little old me. As I circled our home, I played my fiddle, and I sang Home on the Range. The griddle, too heavy to move, heard the word range and started to groove. Who ever heard of a dancing griddle? Playing a fiddle, eating a skittle? Can you solve this riddle? Okay. This one is called The Word. Words, swirling, twirling. How many letters could there be? Some only one or two. Listen and look. Do they express you? How to connect them in a fitting way, how to express them night or day, sorrow, happy or sad. Let's be glad. Don't waste your words with thoughts of sad. Words of bitterness, strife, animosity will separate, sadden, and depress you and me. Share words of peace, love, and grace. They can make anger and hate erase. Where can words of happiness and peace be found? Can we implant them in our mind, heart, and soul? I only know of one real source of peace. It's found in the words of wisdom. Wisdom is found in the Word, God's Word. Thank you, Lord, for your Word, the everlasting Word.
Want to do one more?
One more? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. You all, I guess you were introduced to my husband Larry, and I had to get his permission to do this one because it's about him. And we had our 50th anniversary in August, but Rick and Linda are ahead of us. I think you're 52, right?
52, yes.
See, so we're just still new kids on the block. The name of this one is Thanksgiving. Thank you for a new day. Thank you is good to say. Thank you for the sky so blue. Thank you for loving you. How can I express my love for you? How can I say thank you for the things you do? You carefully put drops in my eyes. A sweet kiss may be a surprise. I gaze into your eyes of blue, and I think of how deeply I love you. Our Lord chose you for my best. He knew being in your arms would help me rest. I am thankful you were his choice. While resting in your arms, I can rejoice. I feel your touch, to feel your touch, you know I love you so much. You are a blessing holding me. Your strong hands I see. Eyes, hands, lips, caress, all show your tenderness. Thank you, Lord, for this dear man that you chose for me in a faraway land.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to read one more, and then I'm going to bring out our special guests. This one's called Make Words Sing. O thou profoundest vowel, emerge and howl on stubborn and constant consonantal growl. Hit an A, 440, what do you say? With a BCD like a Boolean drift, tropical, topical shift, with a sarong fitted like a song, soaring highest note from out that lovely woman's perfume throat. Edie, Ale, Dynamite, Goodbye, Eddie. Strings are named on my guitar. A paragraph's passion start my letter. Fettered, better, carved stars. Eddie, is it right at night when the strumming chorus bursts before us, brightly sprightly? Not playful like a king's disturbance or blindly porous like the Secret Service. Or horny like the limousine that doesn't beep as much as really raucous metal caucus music scream, provoke a note of harmony with the chant of a one, a two, a three. Sing out a chorus rich with love, as kissable as milady's richly filigreed and lacy-fingered glove. Crooning like unto a baby with an ancient tale of ever after, maybe. Whispering the winged soulful song of desire, each tripping, flipping note of fire. And now, my friends, traveling across the miles, traveling further than a star's blink, I offer you Skyza.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
I'm Skyza Lemon. I've been doing poetry since I was 6 years old, and I would like to read to you. When you love them too fast like a runaway train, and the maggots continue to mangle your brain, when he rips out and ruptures your every last thought, when she stole all emotion, never to get caught. All your tears have trains too, but the heart's breaks run sore, and you do not remember what beats anymore. Snap is shocked of these ruins and then stare at the film, because you fell out of dreams back into your own room. You're waiting for hope, but that train does not run, and the years turn to fears as the night melts the sun. You've torn time to pieces. It's now just a scar on the back of your mind where no one looks at it. Your smile is dried and rotting, for it's been recalled. So you pick up a pen to fill in all its flaws. There are trains all around us with prices to match. When it's 4 in the morning, which one will you catch? play the EBS. This is a national emergency. America's done lost its mind and now its memory, because people won't remember how to let other choices be. Pay attention. Women's rights are on the run. Anyone who should find them should dial 911, because women's rights are now being violated, beaten, and battered. Violated, battered, and beaten by a nation who strives more to promote what they're eating than to vote legislation that should protect me and you. Men, you're no exception. America screws everyone without. If you're a woman, you're now forced to carry, while gun laws ensure some are forced to marry. As police forget training, say school shootings are too scary. It was a dangerous situation. They feared getting shot while having a decision that 19 kids did not. Meanwhile, calls for justice are marked unjust, and people say they're only human, and the news praises cops as heroes. Well, until the next known shooting. Don't forget, they chose selective amnesia, choosing not to remember that people don't play darts using bullets as arrows, aiming for human parts, and all the world is watching and defending the NRA, while gun owners continue spilling people's DNA, knowing the masses will support them, so it's passed off as okay. Remember what I'll say about selective amnesia, a condition that leaves the most potent politicians in their seats, governing decades past their terms, yet it's a fair democracy. Many folks shrug and say it's the way things have gotten, and refuse to see what has always been rotten. Rights continue receding, our freedoms are now bought, and progress may get made, but history is purposefully being forgotten. That's the world of today. We all don't have to pick cotton, for the world to remind us there are more isms to break, for the world to remind us not to make one mistake. Without the bet that we were trouble from the minute they met, straight from the get-go, how the hell can we forget? Selective amnesia is for those who can afford it. George Floyd or Matthew Shepard had no option to ignore it. Breonna Taylor or Connor Monger didn't live to see that 2022 would be behind 1973. Lives aren't Walmart prices. Still, they've rolled back our rights with bills they've unsigned, trying to roll back our minds. This is a national emergency. I don't think you get it. This is a national emergency, but we're not supposed to sweat it. They've captured the womb in broad daylight and set free more bills as decoys for rights, more guns to destroy more lives, set free more genocides to deploy, and I can't make my words run fast enough to undo the damage bullets cast enough to reverse the flags that have masked enough. I can't pretend that my scars don't remember just because you have the luxury to forget, well, for now. If you don't remember anything else that I've said, don't forget to pay a tribute to human rights when they're dead. Never forget.
Bravo.
Or, that's okay. How do I tell an author that his prose are the clothes that cut me? I bled from his wounds just by reading those words. Blurbs leading me to thoughts most consider absurd. All I caught, it was that words or wounds are as equivalent as they are equivocal, almost feeling unbelievable, knowing looks are deceivable when the knife is pulled out or away from me. Crossing my eyes as I'm dotting my t-shirt with blood as it pours the contents of my core, bleeding out that which I thought I knew before. His pen repeatedly scraped and rubbed my defenses and urged me to fight, but destabilized my senses. His words incubi, and I'm caught in their tongues, struck by art swiftly inflicted from his poetic lungs. He exhaled his soul to ink, but it was my chest that stung. However, this message wasn't so black and white. It would never be that simple. For reading the first line was like popping a pimple that soon became a divot as my nails pivoted into skin, ripping my face from false realities once again. I was so eager to begin it, but my conditioning begs to end it. This awakening, filled with true kindness in mind of not letting me stay blind, of not sparing the societal masks that I once idolized. My beliefs are now prized possessions that resemble confessions, things I regret having owned and didn't want to think were mine. A reprieve from a sickening of my right and left eyes that dealt a breath of fresh death to what I thought I had realized. His words became the guide to my life's editor, but who's truly the predator if I can feel what he's known? A succubus for tasting his world from my own, still ashamed that my psyche chose his feelings to dine. However, this lifetime has a balance by design. That my eyes must be closed in order for them to be woke. His weapon strung across the page I bear, how he broke. I've been murdered 1,000,000 times, drowning in the worldly lore, but you, poet, you have killed me in a way I've not died before.
Wow.
Awesome. Skyza, that was incredible. Really good, really good.
This latest published piece was just recently published in a social justice anthology called I Can't Breathe 2, which is the second in a series by Bloomfield College created writing in New Jersey. And it's called Stopped. 1991. Before cell phones, before internet, I started in Mobile, Alabama. I would end up in Long Beach, California with stops at cousins' homes in Baton Rouge, Tucson, and San Diego. I had snagged an internship at an LA ad agency as a University of Alabama student. I gave myself a week to drive out there. I spent the night at cousin Chunky's house in Baton Rouge, up a 3.5-hour drive. His wife Ellen let me sleep late against my wishes. I think it was just around 2 p.m. when I left. It was after midnight when I was stopped by a Texas state trooper. I must have been driving at least 10 hours. He had been following my car for 2 miles. I was driving over 90 miles per hour. The trooper used his bullhorn to get my attention. "Pull over! We've been trailing you for over 2 miles!" I stopped in the shoulder. A spotlight glared from the black and white with its blue siren lights going. There was a loud tapping on my driver's side window. I rolled it down, fished my license from my wallet and registration from the glove compartment. He said he figured I was hypnotized by the road since my speed never increased after he turned on the flashing lights and siren. Unfortunately, he had to impound my car. I was put in the back of his cruiser in handcuffs that were so tight my wrists were noticeably bruised after the cuffs were removed and I was being fingerprinted. I spent the night in a holding cell with a man who was so intoxicated he should have been in a hospital. My parents had to wire me money to get my car out of impound. A court date was set if I wanted to challenge the ticket, which was over $200. Impound and towing fees were over $400. I learned a lesson about driving after I started feeling drowsy and that Joel Cola wasn't going to keep me alert and awake enough. Actually, when the trooper stopped me, he took my license and registration, walked back to his car, came back to mine, lectured me for driving more than 8 hours and said, "Son, you best stop at the next exit and take a room at the Howard Johnson, got it?" I nodded yes and said thank you. I thought I was going to get away without getting a ticket and didn't say a word. He pulled out his ticket book and told me to mail my payment to the courthouse address at the top of the ticket. It was less than $100. I never really thought about what didn't happen that night until years later, till after everything happened that happened in Ferguson, Missouri. How such a substantial portion of their town budget was derived from traffic tickets, impound fees, and court costs. Maybe I guess I never thought about it because I was white. And this is called The Tree That, well, this one was published in the Poetry and the Brew Sinew Anthology. This is called The Tree That Hugged Its Humans. The first house my parents bought, 11 Burton Drive in Atlanta, Georgia, was a split-level brick house with a magnolia tree in the front yard. The first and only house my parents built, 305 Fernhill Court in Mobile, Alabama, was a larger split-level brick house, oaks and pines lining the front and backyard. As a surprise for Mom, Dad had a juvenile magnolia planted in the front yard. Rita Ann Papalina's Franco, aka Mommy Salami, was awed by magnolia blossoms. Unbeknownst to her husband, aka Good, this tree was male, which didn't bloom, but it grew tall with twisted, gnarled branches as large as my adult hand, rich forest green, crisp, slick, shiny, with a velvety soft undersides. As beautiful and aromatic blossoms of magnolias are, the leaves give them their iconic strength of character. My mother's tree is now 41 years old, tall and wide as a New England Town Square Christmas tree. When Mom moved to a patio home in 1993, it was half its current size. I believe pieces of my family's souls live in that tree. The roots are my father digging deeper in the ground yearly, providing stability, season after season, milestone after milestone, hurricane after hurricane, barbecue after barbecue. The branches are my brothers and myself. The longer they grew, the more offshoots they produced, the more life we lived. Crushes for estates, bar mitzvahs, graduation, college, adulthood. Mom is the leaves, soaking in sunlight, nourishing her tree with unbridled love, absorbing ever-present rainstorms that plague Mobile, Alabama, and turmoil that beset our family. Rita, or A-tier as Good called her, was a force to be reckoned with, and was never without a hug for anyone in her family. After Mom died, I flew to Mobile from Maine. I asked my brother to drive by the house. The tree was magnanimous. Paul stopped the car for a minute. We stared at a chunk of our history, and left for the funeral home to view the body. I knew if I walked over to the tree and touched a leaf, I would have been touched by my mother's soul, a soul that would find it impossible to not hug her son in the afterlife. Right.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this, Rick. Rick has been a great presence in the international Zoom poetry scene.
This is true.
And Skyza has really become a wonderful friend to me. This was published in a Alaskan journal called, I can't remember what it's called, so I'm going to get it up. It's called A Random Act. It was a cold, drizzly December Maine afternoon. Not cold enough for snow, not a strong enough rain to call it real rain. It had snowed an inch or 3 that morning, not enough to take out a shovel, easy enough to drive through. The type of snow that gets melted away by a couple or 4 hours of rain. I drove the 45-minute weekly road trip to wait in line for about 15 minutes to enter Trader Joe's and exited with 2 bags. I rolled my cart 2 parking lot aisles over to the cart receptacle, and while walking back to my car, I saw a woman holding several bouquets of flowers, carefully placing cellophane wrap packages stem and down under windshield wipers. I asked her what she was doing. She said that on a day like today, she thought people wouldn't mind getting flowers from a stranger. She extended her right arm toward me and offered me a bouquet. I hesitated to accept, but accepted. I suddenly felt flattered and thanked her. She smiled and responded, "Just a random act of kindness." I got in my car and inspected the carnations and chrysanthemums that looked like they were painted with melted Skittles. I began to giggle. I felt a few warm tears roll down my cheek. I reached around into the pocket in the back of my seat, grabbed a roll of paper towels, and tore one off to use as a Kleenex. I wiped my tears and blew my nose and started laughing again. I heard my mother's spirit tell me that crying when happy is genetic. Suddenly I could feel my father's arm stretched across my shoulders, giving me a gentle pat. My Uncle Sam was offering me a slice of gooseberry pie for breakfast and a shot of after-dinner aquavit. My Aunt Lila was explaining to me that Velveeta was the secret to a good pot of cheese grits. I think she would have approved of my version with Asiago, coconut milk, curry leaf, lime zest, and white pepper. My Aunt Charlotte was tightly hugging me, acknowledging that her secret depression wasn't something I had to keep secret. My Uncle Ralph offered me an ice-cold Fresca and told me he was no longer afraid to converse with his teenage son he thought might be gay. My friend of over 21 years, Beth, wasn't telling me she had decided to discontinue chemotherapy, but instead was making her famous potato soup, while her giant yellow lab Ebenezer was asking me to rub his belly. This random act of kindness flooded my heart with sunshine. The sun was refusing me that cold, drizzly December-May afternoon. This random act of kindness allowed me to feel a little less pandemic isolation sad, a little less afraid, and a little less alone. I'm going to go to my book, Everything I Think Is All in My Mind. And this is a piece that's in the book, but it's also was 7th place in the NAMI, New Jersey mental health poetry contest. And so I'm really proud of that.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's called Your Smile Never Ceases to Exist as Part of Who You Are. Remember way back when your smile was your calling card? When you smiled for more than happy. When you smiled when you were embarrassed, when you smiled through a lie, when you liked to smile, when you used your teeth for more than chewing. Remember when you were always on then? You wanted to dim the lights a little. Attention felt like unattainable high expectations, then you reverted back to wallflower. You were on vacation when you were present and no one knew but you. Silence was a place of comfort. Then you crossed a threshold when people started ending sentences and conversations with you with question marks that would not have had question marks in writing. Then you stopped going barefoot around family due to the myriad broken eggshells they left on the ground because it became mandatory to walk on eggshells around you. You felt hobbled by the unwritten rule that everyone else was allowed to stand up for themselves, but you must sit in the corner like Dennis the Menace as punishment for breathing. But when you breathe, you existed. Sometimes the act of existence is a form of standing up for yourself, even if you are unaware. Unwritten rules are unwritten and thusly incapable of being set in stone. The only things that are truly set in stone is that every human is composed of blood, skin, and bones, and every single person decides how to use their teeth. Okay. So we're going to go into some of these books here. This was the very first poem that I got published. It's from Globalization, which is an Australian anthology. I come from a place. Oh, I'm sorry, it's called Survival of the Thinkies, excuse me. Yeah, my titles are very important to me. I come from a place where selfishness is synonymous with survival. It is not uncommon for me to traverse knee-deep snow when getting out of bed on sweltering summer days. And despite that I am numb knee to ankle, the soles of my feet burn from scorching summer sand. There are people who claim to feel no pain when walking barefoot over hot coals. Welcome to the world of mind over matter, where people feel no pain but their feet are bloody and blistered. I come from a place where selfishness is synonymous with survival, where success cannot happen without sacrifice. I come from a place called Earth, a giant ball of dirt, stone, water, and gases, littered with plants and animals, and amongst the animals is a creature called human. And unlike the rest who simply survive, humans think, humans reason, humans justify. There are over 7 billion humans scurrying about trying to find their place on this place called Earth. If one of these thinking, reasoning, justifying creatures truly found its place, it could stay put. But we all have to move to get out of bed. So this is an outdated poem because there are now 8 billion officially humans. Thank you. Oh, did I mark this one? Hold on. I do want to do this piece because it's really good. I'm going to find a page on if I can. You know what? I'll just go to something else. This is a book called Beautiful in the Eye of the Beholder, and this is a smaller poem called Flora Seductress. My dearest Atropa belladonna, your berries are sweet with an edge of tart. I will pick them to make jam to top my toast. Your tiny purplish tulip-shaped flowers look like they taste like grape soda. I want to candy the tasty petals and set them atop a beautiful buttercream frosted hummingbird cake. I have been informed everything you are is poison. The jam from your fruit will turn breakfast into a last supper. Your pretty petals will turn my birthday cake into funeral fare. I am seduced by your sweet appearance and innocent disposition. You may just be the death of me. And let's go ahead. This is from the Knoxville Poetry Foundation Remembering Jack Kerouac anthology. And I'm proud to be there. They have 3 anthologies. And hold on. I am on page 49. And this is called Chicago. I do like this poem. The car broke down halfway to Chicago. Winter wind was blowing, no snow was snowing, so I stuck out my thumb, not knowing what's to come, took a magic carpet ride, absent magic, and the windy city wasn't quite as pretty as I thought it would be. I rode the road home fast and free, through rain, snow, and sleet. My feet got soaked, but they always seemed to know how to find their way back to dry and clean. The car wasn't mine, so it must have been a sign that the sun don't shine for only me. After all, flowers gotta grow, wind will always blow, and people will sing songs no one else will know. Others will write poems no one else will read. Some poems will never find their way to paper, lost in thought streams of poets, treading water through their thoughts. Some say a poem is just a poem, a song is just a song, the world is what it is, and life just goes on and on. But every thought may be a poem, and every poem on a page may be a song that sounds like a dream. Dreams happen when we sleep, even happen when we're awake. The daytime sun always shines when somewhere else the moon and tides align. I'm always swimming through my thoughts because they get tangled in the air I breathe. This is why when life starts making sense, my senses take their leave. I believe the car was a metaphor without a meaning. And every poem I think up is an open door I can choose to close or just walk through. After all, flowers gotta grow, and wind will always blow, but a poem is never just a poem. A song is never just a song. And Chicago will always be Chicago. I will do one more poem. Make sure this doesn't go off. And not this from this one. Did I not mark the pages? How did I not mark the pages in these? I thought I did. I just looked them up. Then this is called Why Sophia Can't Get Enough of Marrakesh.
Could you say that again, please?
Okay. I have to look at the page again. Why Sophia Can't Get Enough of Marrakesh. 67. Wait a minute, here we go. At the old school bookstore next door to your neighborhood coffee shop, you find an obscure poetry journal from Truth or Consequences in Mexico. Read a poem on page 23 whose syllabic rhythm skips to a beat like a shiny slick rock. Skip, skips, skip, skips. Across a lake on a lazy summer day. You imagine a poet reading the poem backed by a man slowly plucking strings on an upright bass shaped like a voluptuous woman. Oops. You find yourself snapping your fingers and tapping your feet to the poem as if it were a song stuck in your head. It's hooked in your mind, repeating to a beat. to a beat, till you find yourself in a dingy basement jazz joint tucked away near Bleecker Street. And you think about that poem you read and that hole-in-the-wall coffee shop run by a man from Morocco, where tea is served in metal-adorned glass cups with fresh mint leaves, and coffee is brewed with water infused with mace, cardamom, and cinnamon from Ceylon. There's a sign near the antique brass cash register. If you want whipped cream with coffee, go to Starbucks. It never fails to make you laugh, letting the man from Morocco know his sense of humor has found your sense of humor's G-spot. So you sit at a wobbly wooden table, gripping your scotch on the rocks. The ice jingles against the glass. A man on an upright bass, shaped like Sophia Loren, plucks strings, setting the beat for a drummer to tap his skins and cymbals with feathered sticks. A woman pulls the slide on her trombone. Her cheeks expand to full bullfrog. She exhales into brass. You sip your scotch. Your throat is bathed in warmth. You open your eyes to a trio of noises that is nothing less than poetry. May I just do a food piece? Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, so, so this was published in something called Burn Before Reading, and then I'm going to do a newer piece. Why I have an aversion to spiral staircases. I recently helped a friend move into a house with a spiral staircase. The spiral staircase extended past the floor it stopped at, continued through the ceiling and roof, and climbed its way through the stratosphere to the moon. When I returned, I tracked moon dust on my friend's antique Turkish rug that crossed the Atlantic with his great-grandmother. How could I explain that while he was unpacking spatulas and books, I learned the moon was not made of cheese? Luckily, I had brought a bounty of goodies from the farmer's market to divert attention from the fact that I might slip myself a magic mushroom or two before the sun sets. I sliced 4 thick slices of spongy buckwheat walnut bread, spread a thin layer of artisan mustard made with black, brown, and yellow mustard seeds, rice wine vinegar, manuka, honey, figs, coriander seed, and white pepper, topped it with a slice of ashy, rinded, slightly sour-tasting, semi-soft sheep's milk cheese and fresh sage, then closed it shut with another slice of bread. I heated my friend's famous well-seasoned cast iron skillet his Aunt Mildred gave him before he helped her move to a retirement home. Aunt Mildred used that skillet to win 4 blue ribbons for fried chicken at the county fair in Tullahoma, Tennessee. He proudly displayed Aunt Mildred's ribbons in a shadow box on the kitchen wall. I placed the sand. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on, what happened there? I placed the sandos in the hot, dry skillet till I could smell the bread turn a lovely, toasty, golden brown. I flipped it till the other side toasted, removed the culinary masterpieces to paper plates, and sliced them diagonally. My friend took a first bite and made a grunt that could have accompanied an orgasm. Jesus! The mustard and sage are so amazing, and this cheese is everything! But in the end, a masterful melty grilled cheese sandwich was not enough to melt away imaginary moon dust from a Turkish rug. Okay, let me just do Egg, which is a new poem and not published. But I really want to do that piece because people love this. It's called Egg. When I cracked your shell to make my breakfast, was I committing murder? When do eggs cease being viable chickens? When I sprayed the pan with olive oil that sprinkled nutritional yeast and white pepper onto the area of the pan your insides would fall onto, then you sizzled as you hit the center of the hot surface. Then I broke the yolk almost immediately with the corner of the spatula I would flip you with, then lowered you onto a sesame bagel with melted provolone toasting away open-faced in the toaster oven, awaiting this former chick to be placed atop the melty cheese, then topped it off with fresh baby spinach and raw onion against the top hatch, which has melted mustard cheese on its underside. Then I held the package tightly like a vice grip with my hands to compress everything inside in order to placate my taste buds and provide nutritional sustenance which will be accompanied by a hot Earl Grey tea or ice cold apple cider between bites. I never thought about the 11 remaining chicks to be sitting in a cardboard carton in my fridge awaiting their fate. And I want to do this, I think you've heard this before already. I always end things with this, it's called Lady Poetry. Warning, I'm just going to give you a trigger warning, but not tell you what it's about. Poetry. It is no secret you are a woman. You are the goddess of midwifery. Each poem I give birth to bursts something inside my soul I never knew existed. Poetry bursts emotions, tears, laughter, anger, and confusion. Poetry bursts outrage, protest, justice, and humanity's ability to cure society's ills. Poetry bursts voices that did not know they were capable of eliciting everything poetry bursts. Poetry bursts words from minds that never knew they could communicate something visceral. Poetry bursts poets who read and hear poetry created by other poets that find poetry inside their minds that we read or heard by others who will create their own poetry, creating an infinite loop of other people creating poetry. Push! 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 One more! You can do it! Push! Congratulations. You've given birth to a poem.
What a fantastic performance, Bryan, Franco, aka Generalissimo.
Great job, Ryan.
This is one of my COVID poems, which we still enjoy the visitation of. This is called Down from the Trees. Honey baby, tell me please, since we're not so long down from the trees, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Up in the branches or down on deeply polished floors. We like reciprocal, you and me. Ever since we balanced on the limbs of trees, whether out in the car or up in the tree, I'll groom you and you groom me. The only thing now that's left for us, as the virus sets a fence between what we really feel and what we really mean, with you so far away on the other side of the glowing screen another day, we wave weakly. How I miss your sweet perfume in the many darling ways you decorate a room. The distance mars our loves sealed up behind the screen's glass walls untouched. Oh, honey baby, tell me please, since we're really not that long down from the trees, I wish you were here to find and pluck off all my fleas. We're isolated, out of touch, and miles away my fingers clutch in disarray, my clothes askew. What I wouldn't give for you to have your seat beside me here, with your fingers searching my matted hair, even to have you look with scorn at the clothes piled across the room I've worn. I'd even eat the toast you burn, if I could beside you touch you and warmly turn down from the trees.
Yes. Yeah, corn has a little bit of spice to it.
Skyza, would you like to do a couple more?
Please do, Skyza.
I was watching water, I was like, I get so weak in the knees I can hardly speak, because the idea of love incarcerates me. I always want to try again to pay and play my chance, but love is a game of choice and circumstance, where no matter how hard I think I can win, I'm stuck at the roulette table. All the slots are black except the one I need, and the more times I lose, the more love I have to cede. You see, my darkness is a place where love once existed, but I paid this toll bridge till I barely anything left to give, and every time I try, I find a less than warm and friendly welcome to romance. Some sort of unwelcome, where to write about love is to be enslaved by the ink, intoxicated by the smothering highs and sunk by the asphyxiating lows, never knowing if my heart will beat to the rhythm or become cardiac arrested. Prose and poetry are hungry succubi, but instead of running, I willingly sign my death certificate because I can't quite seem to find my all-seeing eye right now. So So I dream about love. Love is hiding that little dungeon under an appealing mansion roost, offering abuse disguised as pleasurable attractions extremely alluring to the senses. Every dish I could imagine that disarms my defenses is being set at the table, and I'm smitten. Bitten by mottos outlawed and overwritten, like people say, true love isn't supposed to be pricey. So love guides me to my seat and pushes in my chair for free, then covers my face with chloroform napkins that complement the chivalry. Knocking me downright unconscious while I fear my demise, but sirens sing the fruits of love like a succulent lullaby, making my hesitance break up instead. If I'm lucky enough to wake up undead from love, I'll be bound to a mirror, held captive while forced to face my fears. Countless mornings, still wishing my father were here because it's easier to have someone else degrade and demean me and fight, insult, and deceive me. It is easier for him to hurt me than it is to do the same things to myself. For I know my flaws so well, I'll do the worst internal deprecation without even asking why. My thoughts would have already given me full interrogations. So before I get a chance to answer, I'd be declared guilty by every association. Best not to even think about dating. I'd find myself on the stand, me against me, cross-examining the debate if I'm worth loving or if I'd even date myself. I've been known to find evidence to support the contrary, so it wouldn't be fair to expect someone else to defend me from myself. No matter what they do, they can't act as my attorney in a case where I'm the judge, both parties, and the jury. Where I am caught in this constant cycle of prosecuting myself for the crime, of prosecuting myself for the crime, of prosecuting myself, and I get weak. I get so weak in the knees because I've already asked myself a million questions before I even say hi to you. I can hardly speak to save my life because although I really, really like you and I want to spin that wheel, I don't have enough chips to cover the price of losing. And as long as I know that, it's one less thing I have to prosecute myself for today.
Wow.
One more.
Please.
Is that okay? One or not?
Go ahead.
It's called Hero. Last one. She is an anonymous hero. Unsung and unproud of some of her deeds, her body portrays the battle scars her journey gave her. She may be unsure if she can even call them scars. She's walking her path in life with 2 fractured feet. Her small voice might be breaking, seemingly trembling, when she refers to her amputation as her stump. She has a special ability like I do, the power to harness and display compassion for those who won't accept her, but unlike me, she takes it one step further. She answers the unacceptance itself with love. She lives in a nearby region in Tennessee where visibility is defined mostly by a select few corporations. Children eat the media into oblivion, drink liters of subliminal messages, and snack on their own hunger for truth. A scrap of food that keeps them coming for more, but she bears concern for their eyes and their minds, and she decides to hide her arms so they wouldn't be scared by what she had lost. She put away the evidence of who she used to be, that made her who she was today, stashing away a part of her that was vital to the story of her survival so she could continue to give hope with her thriving existence. And yes, she could stand against their normalization of who she had become. She could protest the abominable act of society of only showing people with every limb and every extremity as the status quo. However, she did not earn her scars in such an honorable manner. And although she manages to outshine any shame that sometimes hits her insecurities, nevertheless, she is one of my heroes. Her story hits me deeply because I, too, to this day, still hide both my arms when in front of children. I know how much it takes to hide who I used to be, as not to break someone else's faith, whatever it is or was. I know there are parts of me, of my past, which would fracture people's hopes. But by the same token, those times strengthened me most. I cannot exist without the trauma resolutions that shaped who I am today, and I would not be able to stand at all had it not been for the lessons that I learned through that pain. My own feet may not be physically broken, but they have burned on the hot coals of my own lingering anger. My soul kept finding every reason not to calmly sit and work on me, standing and screaming, I should be doing more than sitting. More than simply encouraging the world's people to bestow actual humanity. If anything, that very humanity starts through acceptance, which starts with visibility. Until the day Americans can take a moment to normalize burn survivors' appearances, some people will regard their looks as terrifying, as the media continues to exploit them every year on Halloween. Until amputees become a fixture in mainstream family media, my hero won't breathe easy about her own recovery and will continue saving the world from her story, the very fundamental that has kept her alive to help others. Experiences like hers put light and tears into my eyes. She teaches me that love is sometimes won by wars, revolutions that are run by triggerless revolvers, repeated rotations of patience and dedication, a way I can sit and still make a stand, preparing for the fight of my life, because acceptance tends to be preached in the shadows, but not practiced in the battles. But it's true that what is done in the dark will come to the light, and it's by my own shadow work that I've begun accepting my flaws. Until people can accept others with certain variations, there will be warriors like her who will remain unnamed. Some will never even know they are victors at all, let alone how many people their journey truly liberates. And like her, they will never see that they have helped someone find the hero in themselves. When the world knocks at my door with unacceptance, it's because of her, my hero, that I plan to answer it with love. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
We have had two marvelous poets from far away, and we have some poets that are local, and we have a special poet who's local. Lisa, can I invite you up to come up and read one or two of yours?
I would have brought different material.
Well,
Actually,
you know,
was not planning to get up, so
well,
let me find something.
we are honored to have her stand up. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for her. Lisa. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for Lisa. Thank you so much.
Very nice, thank you.
Okay, this first one was published in Maya's Micros. It is more or less a haiku sonnet, like Shimarisu do. What mischief spring brings, cheery chipmunks clown around in my flower bed. Is summer too soon? Cheeky chipmunk checks my deck, collects birdseed specks. Fall's bountiful start, chockful chipmunk breaches my Shinrin Yoku. Ready for winter? Chipmunk carved sanctuary under my sidewalk. Tucked in like Shimarisu, I too burrow all season.
Good.
Lovely, lovely.
I love that. Haiku sonnet.
Was longlisted for the Heartwood Poetry Journal's award last year. It's called Pining for Home. Let me do this. I can read better without this. Draped over water's edge at dusk, branches needle Quito Bayou. A lonesome stand of Florida pines faces a deciduous tree line dotted with civilization. A bridge span, cell tower, low-rise condos and homes border the scene. A sunset sienna reflections ripple as mellow waters fade to shadowed charcoal inshore. In loblolly shade, two legs dangle from exposed root. Feet dip into the brackish border of land and water like bait on thick fishing line to snag a lost memory. A splash of feet speak. We knew a time before the plunder. We never walked today's agglomeration of boat-docked, fenced-in, hefty waterfront homes. The body remembers how we traced sandy trails to secret fishing holes and caught unearthly creatures. It remembers how we held a bat in knee-deep water, hit a tennis ball into blue, and bolted like barracuda to imaginary bases. It remembers racing to the island, lazing on the dock, before opal washed them away. The body remembers how dolphins evaded our chase with out-of-reach reaches and leaps. It remembers the weight of rain. The body remembers handfuls of goopy, soft, scooped up and tossed baby jellyfish and the fierce sting of grown ones nettled into flesh. The body remembers what left, how we moved away, people, pines, an indigenous playground. In darkness, legs lift from a root and feet shuffle in salted sand. In the lonesome, in still waters, in the dusk of life, memories reside. A soul ponders how pine roots run so deep in sand, revels in the briny weight of rain. Isn't that the way from birth? We feel our way home.
Bravo, bravo. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a marvelous evening here at Frannie's. I have to thank Skyza and Bryan, aka Generalissimo, and Lisa, and my dear, dear friends and neighbors, Sharon and Larry, who've been so gracious for so many years now for me. Thank you so much.